What is up guys, welcome back to another episode of ReaperCast. Today we're going to be doing a very long video. We are going to be ranking the Yu-Gi-Oh! GX characters. This is every single duelist in Yu-Gi-Oh! GX. Of course, there is a lot of duelists here. As we can see, there are a total of 89 different duelists, so there's a lot of them. And this is definitely going to take a really long time, so I want to be able to skim through these as much as possible. This is something that is definitely going to be longer than the previous ranking ones, where I actually ranked the original characters, the original series. So yeah, GX is just known to have a lot of different characters. So without further ado, let's get started. I want to actually go with a bit more of the characters we don't know and then work our way to the ones we really know. So as we can see with the different tiers, I put A, B, C, D, E and F, and then I also put S class, which is obviously beyond that, and we also put SS and SSS. So triple S is essentially your god tier. I mean, it's the top tier, no one can beat them. It's pretty much just hacks at this point. So you're going to find that this is actually going to be pretty common in Yu-Gi-Oh! GX characters, but let's just not waste any more time and let's get started right away. So I'm just going to go through and see who we have. So firstly, let's talk about this alien. This alien was essentially just a test when Jaden was actually in the Neospatian planet, and Aqua Dolphin pretty much put him against this guy. It was to unlock Jaden's hidden power after he lost to Asta Phoenix. So yeah, this was during a time when Jaden was definitely much weaker because he hadn't acquired his Neospatians yet. In fact, he only acquired one at the time, and that was Aqua Dolphin. So considering that this guy still lost to a technically weaker Jaden, I wouldn't consider it the best. If anything, it's a tester. It might even be weaker than one of the weakest duelists here, so instantly it goes in F. Realize I've just spent way too much time talking about the particular character, so I'm going to speed things up. This particular doll, there was a episode talking about her, well, not talking about her, where Jaden actually dueled her. It was more of a fun episode than anything, a good one-shot, and I think putting her at around C is pretty okay. The Duel Academy students, what I'll mention this right now, they're not that great. Just because you got into Duel Academy doesn't mean you're the best duelist out there. Far from it. But she definitely seems to have given Jaden quite a hard time in their duel. So I'm going to give her a C. I think she's just around the average. She's better than the Duel Academy students, but like I said, I don't think the Duel Academy students are actually that great at dueling at all. Alright, so next we have here, let's go with Bron. Bron is the Dark World monster. He was pretty much the first Dark World monster that Jaden took on, and I thought it was a really awesome duel because this one was when Jaden actually unlocked his Supreme King for the first time. But given that Bron was part of the Dark World, he's a much more scarier creature, so I'm going to put it in B right now. We might change things along the way, but for now I'm just going to go with it. Next we have this guy. He was again part of the Dark World, one of those guards. I would probably put him in C. I mean, look, I think any C tier player could work their way around Jaden for a small portion of time, maybe for a few turns before they actually get beat. So yeah, that's just my opinion on that, but I think that serves as a really good position for him. Next here we're gonna put, well, this guy. He was part of the Shadow Riders arc in the very first one, and this guy was pretty much just fodder. I mean, he didn't really do too much. I'm gonna put him in E. And we also have this guy here as well. He was pretty much fodder, so I'm gonna put him in D as well. I will give him a bit of credit for the fact that the Society of Light actually chose him specifically to also target Jaden, but that being said, he didn't do anything notable. We're going to move on to this guy, pretty much a salty loser who, after he kept losing, I guess, his duels, he decided to just become a news reporter and try to take down Duel Academy via the media. Having a sore loser like that, he's obviously an F tier. He's just awful. This is Chancellor Foster, the Chancellor of North Academy. Unfortunately, this guy, we never actually got to see his abilities, so I'm gonna assume he's at least a D tier. I don't think he's as good as Shepard, and we'll get to Shepard later, but for the time being, he's a D tier, and if anything, I might even put him in E tier. We have this guy, Cesar, I think. I don't know, I forgot his name, but he's the top duelist in North Academy. He got beat by Chaz pretty easily though, but that being said, the fact that he's the top student in North Academy, I'm going to give him at least C tier. I think he's the best among C tiers, but he would get wrecked pretty easily. And we're talking about him losing to Chaz very early on as well. Chaz was playing with a completely random deck of 40 cards, and one of them happened to be Ojama Yellow without any of the Ojama supports as well. So the fact that he lost, nah, he doesn't deserve that spot. This guy, pretty much a sore loser. He was just seeking attention, and honestly, he didn't do anything too notable. I'm giving him E tier, maybe even F tier. I don't even know how Duel Academy actually hires their teachers. This guy's just, nah, I don't think is actually that good at all. Moving on here, we have here the Dark Scorpions. It was mainly Don Zalug that actually battled. They were strong enough that they were picked as a Shadow Rider, which was, you know, you got to give them credit for that, but honestly, they weren't really that good, you know. Yes, they took on Chaz, but even then, it didn't seem like they gave Chaz any trouble. They were more so good at stealing cards or stealing the keys, so if anything, they're E tier. And that's me also being quite generous as well. Next we have this guy. He was a pro duelist that appeared for a while in the GX tournaments, but yeah, D tier. I think the pro duelists in GX are surprisingly weak, though to be honest, it's not too far-fetched considering the original series we rank a lot of the pro duelists as pretty crap as well. We have this guy. Apparently I looked into this guy's backstory. He tried to apply for Duel Academy, but he couldn't even get in, and that says a lot. I mean, you have to be a pretty bad duelist, and he was pretty much just taken in by the Society of Light to battle and lost, so F tier. Gravekeeper's Chief, this guy genuinely was actually good, gave Jaden quite a bit of trouble, and yes, we're talking about Season 1 Jaden, so he wasn't that strong, but he was also praised by Night Shroud, and when I say Night Shroud, I'm talking about Atticus, so I might give him a B tier as well. I think he's a spirit, keep in mind, so that puts him quite high up as well. They're pretty strong. Same thing for Jinzo in this case, though I put him at like the upper C tier. I wouldn't even push him to B tier. Jinzo just gave a bit of a hard time for Jaden, but that's as far as he got. Next here, we could see here Jasmine, I believe her name was, F tier. She's an awful duelist, and we see that quite a lot, that, you know, same thing for Mindy, they're both just F tier duelists. Let's see, who else is there? Harrington, this guy is the tennis guy, if you remember. Apparently in Season 1, they did say that it was possible that he might be at the same level as Zane, and keep in mind he was an Obelisk Blue student. Regardless of that, he seems to be one of those posh kids that kind of bought his way into Obelisk Blue instead. So, I don't know, I think it's the rich kids privileged kind of thing, and overall, I just don't think he's a great duelist. So, D, maybe E, because I'm actually looking at the end of the series and how these guys would fare against a lot of the duelists that came later on in the series, and honestly, they don't seem to have a good chance. If anything, I might even throw them in F tier. I just don't think that they'd be able to take on a lot of the duelists we're going to talk about later on. Next, we have this guy here. I believe his name is Hans. This guy was good enough to wield a fake version of the Winged Dragon of Ra, I believe, or maybe the real version, I'm not too sure. I think it's something where he controlled the real version and he ended up losing anyway, so obviously he's not even good at wielding the Egyptian gods. D tier, bit nice maybe. E tier, I mean, if you can't wield an Egyptian god, what's the point, right? Moving on, who else do we have here? Dr. Eisenstein or whatever. This guy actually did come up with pretty good strategies. I'd put him at a C tier duelist. I mean, he never actually showed anything else. He gave Jaden more so a small lesson, but you know, if Jaden ended up winning, then it doesn't really matter. So C tier at best, and that's me being very generous as well. Alright, moving on. This guy was Society of Light fodder. He was pretty weak. Honestly, E tier, and I'm going to move this guy to E tier as well. The Society of Light brainwashed duelists are honestly just really weak, and same thing for this as well. I mean, E tier. D tier is, if anything, it's actually quite generous. Probably put this here. These guys here, maybe. I think that's a little bit better. Though, to be honest, do you think this guy is stronger than the two Society of Light duelists? I don't know about that. I think that's okay here for now. But let's move on. Let's talk about this guy. This guy's hilarious. I mean, he was an underworld duelist or underground duelist. Apparently he's one of the top ones, but I don't know. I mean, yes, Zane technically did have his awakening in that time, but would I put him in C though? I mean, a lot of the duelists we're about to talk about are going to be up there at the top, so I'm going to put him in D for now, because he still gave Zane quite a hard time throughout the duel. And keep in mind, underground duelists are quite strong, so the fact that he was the top duelist there, it's great. Chumley. Alright, Chumley is... Look, the guy tried, but he never really took his stride. I'm going to give him E tier. I mean, would I give him F tier? I mean, no. I'd give him E tier, and that's me being generous as well. Alright, so Chaz 2.0, this guy took on Chaz. He played the big Ben K deck or whatever. Ended up losing anyway. He's just another version of Chaz, and because we never saw him took his stride, I'm going to give him an E tier as well. This guy, a little bit stronger. I might actually give this guy a D tier. He was focusing on decking out, so when he took on Jaden, he did actually have some kind of decent strategy going on, but the way he executed things caused him to lose, so yeah, D tier is pretty generous for him. We have this guy. He was pretty much the dueling giant. He was the victim of bullying, and because of that, him and his big giant friend went under a cloak and, I don't know, just beat different duelists, which, if anything, I'll give him a bit of credit for that, so I'm going to give it a D. Because although he ended up losing to the main characters, he did take out a lot of the other duelists, which is pretty impressive. Chumley's dad, he's better than Chumley. He was also a pro duelist as well, and this guy used a deck of drunken monsters. I'm going to give him a C. I mean, he was a former pro duelist, so I wouldn't discount him for anything at all. Let's move on to some more lower characters here that we don't know. This guy, he took on Jaden. I mean, we didn't see anything else. He took on a kid Jaden and won, but that doesn't really matter. F tier. I doubt he would be able to compete right now. With the Paradox brothers, I'm going to give them a D tier. They never really accomplished anything from the original series, and again, they didn't really accomplish anything in this series as well. And keep in mind, this was when they were going up against Season 1 Cyrus, and Season 1 Cyrus, we all know how weak Season 1 Cyrus is, so yeah. We have Chaz's brothers, F tier. They can't duel at all. Where's the other one? Oh, there it is, right up here. So both of Chaz's brothers couldn't really duel at all, so I'm just going to keep them right there. Next, let's talk about this guy, the maths guy. So this guy pretty much just used numbers. He was a pro duelist hired by Shepard to participate in the GX tournament to give the students a hard time, though at best, I'm going to give him D tier. I think he would lose to Chumley's dad, he would lose to Dr. Eisenstein, and he wouldn't take on these dual spirit monsters at all. So at best, D tier. So it's pretty hilarious at this point because not a single person has gone above A tier, but you know, it goes to show you how powerful the characters can be. Even if you're a pro duelist in the GX franchise or the whole Yu-Gi-Oh franchise in general, that's not enough to get you to the top. This guy, a childhood friend of Alexis, not really that amazing. I'm gonna keep it at E. Moving on, we have, let's go with Wheeler the monkey. Yeah, E tier, that's pretty good as well. This guy, oh my god, this guy, his voice actually would put you to sleep. It's pretty hilarious. I just can't believe how they hired the different actors for the dub. And you know, growing up watching GX, I watched pretty much the entire series in dub, and then season 4 was, I had to watch it in sub because obviously it was never dubbed, but you know, I still love the sub. It's just that with GX, it was easier to, it was more memorable since I watched it in dub, and this guy's voice was just, yeah, it was just hilarious. But moving on, let's talk about Belowski. Belowski, I'm actually going to put him in B tier. I actually think he was really good. Remember when the pro duelists were actually coming in to take on the students and beating them? Well, some of the students, like Belowski, was actually really strong enough to actually take on these duelists and beat these pro duelists as well. So yeah, pretty impressive. And Belowski, love the Moki Moki deck, really interesting, really fun. So yeah, I'm gonna give him a B tier. Moving on, we have this girl here, I forgot her name, I think Sherry or whatever, but she was playing the bug deck. Basically, she wanted to graduate and be with Zane, and she ended up losing to a Season 1 Cyrus, which, honestly, that's pretty disappointing. I'm gonna give you an F. Alright, moving on, this guy, also a pro duelist, yeah, D tier is pretty generous, but he ended up losing anyway. I think he was the guy that lost to Belowski, and yeah, if you're a pro duelist, that's not going to cut it for you. We have Damon. Damon is also at Belowski's level. Both of them are really, like, I don't know, it's weird. It's like the ones that actually became weird of some sort and had their own unique identities kind of became stronger duelists, whereas a typical student at Duel Academy really has nothing to show for it. Next we have this guy. He was actually possessed by the Reaper, but unfortunately he never really got to show his stuff off. I wouldn't even put him in D tier. I'd most likely put him in E tier. He was controlled, and if we were to take the Reaper's control out of him, he would be an F tier, but we're going to consider him with the Reaper's control as well, and yeah, D tier or E tier is pretty good. One of the pro duelists, again, just going to leave him there. He lost pretty easily to a Society of Light controlled Alexis as well, so yeah, I'll just leave him there. Alright, so now we have Tanya. Tanya is a dual spirit monster. She's actually strong as well. I'm going to put in B tier. I think anyone in B tier is a duelist that I can respect at least, and I think Tanya deserves to be there. She just misses the mark from A tier, but don't think that she's weak. She was a Shadow Rider, and she actually gave Jaden a run for his money. Not to mention, she did beat Bastion, but yeah, she's, I'm gonna give her credit for something. Let's talk about something really interesting. Prince Ojin. Prince Ojin had access to the satellite, and he took on Sartorius. Honestly, this guy, I'm giving him an A tier. A tier, I think it's actually quite cool because he had a one-turn kill. That's the thing. He had a one-turn kill. He had a first-turn kill. It was an FTK deck. That's how amazing he was. And honestly, I think he deserves A tier. If anything, I'm going to push him to S tier, because this guy had an FTK. and the only reason he lost was because Sartorius had a 0-turn kill, which was pretty insane. So right off the bat, I'm just going to bring Sartorius here. Sartorius, this guy had a 0-turn kill, and look, if we're considering Sartorius by himself, I'd probably put him at A tier at best, maybe, I don't know, I don't think he would be an S tier, he would probably be an A tier, but with him being controlled by the Light of Destruction, I'm going to put him in SSS tier. I just think he was one of the strongest villains ever, and the Light of Destruction, look, it was a really underexplained power, and I really wish that they had gone more in depth with it, but the Light of Destruction could have been the rival to Night Shroud himself, which I think that's pretty awesome. You have a villain that's on the light side, and you have a villain that's also on the dark side. That's just really awesome. I thought that would have been such a crazy matchup, but Sartorius with the Light of Destruction, he's just insanely OP. So I'm giving him a triple S tier. Alright, so moving on, we have Sartorius' sister, Serena. She cloned herself, took on Jaden and Asta, and gave him a hard time. Yeah, she did lose, but she's still pretty strong. Respectable B, you know? Respectable B, it's good enough. Let's go with this guy, Demetrius. Yes, Demetrius. This guy copied everyone. He copied Crowler, he copied Zane. He still lost. He eventually copied Yugi's deck, or he stole Yugi's deck, and yeah, try to copy him. And you know what? He could actually give you a run for his money, but the problem is he still doesn't win despite studying. So I'm gonna put him in E tier as well. I mean, E tier is just filling up, but look, he's not gonna beat any of these pro duelists. I highly doubt it. I mean, he's just copying people. Alright, so moving on here, we have this guy, the Examiner. I mean, he was an Examiner, and he didn't really do much, right? Like, entry-level students could get in, and look, if you're letting students that easily into Duel Academy, you should probably be an F tier duelist anyway. Alright, so now we're starting to move on to a bit more of the memorable characters. Well, not to say that we didn't have it before, but yeah. We have this guy. This guy was, well, he was one of the Shadow Riders, didn't really take too much off, but I'm going to give him a C tier. I think that's nice enough to maybe be just behind these dual spirits. With that being said, let's move on. Who else do we have here? Professor Viper. This guy was, he was quite frightening, to be honest, so I'm going to give him B tier as well. Let's move on. We have here Pegasus. Pegasus beat both Crowler and Bonaparte, despite the fact that he was just playing by himself. So yeah, pretty impressive, honestly. Pegasus, A tier, is that nice? I'm going to put him in A tier for now, but he might drop down again, because looking at all of these duelists here, maybe he would be in B tier. I mean, there's no way he could beat the B tier duelists. So let's move on. Who do we have here? We have Bonaparte. Bonaparte lost to Pegasus, like I said, so you look, Bonaparte and Crowler, I'm going to put in C tier. They deserve it. They're not amazing, but they're still able to be somewhat inspiring than the average Duel Academy student, and we're talking about the ones that don't really do anything. So both of them deserve this particular spot. I think they're around even, and for them to lose to Pegasus, this guy's going in B. I mean, he was a Shadow Rider. He's easily going to beat these two guys. This C could be questionable about who's stronger than the other, but I think Crowler and Bonaparte stay at their spot right here. Alright, moving on, we have Marcel. Marcel, okay, I'm talking about Marcel, who is being controlled by yugioh. So because of that, I'm putting him in A tier. I think he just misses the mark on S tier, because honestly, he was controlled, and I don't know, I mean, S tier is a bit too much. Why not S tier? We'll go with S tier. We might change it later. Let's move on. Who else do we have here? Let's talk about this guy here. I forgot his name now, but he was scary. I mean, he beat Alexis, a season 1 Alexis, so not too big of a feat, but still there. He was one of the weaker Shadow Riders, I would say, but I'd still think he's better than the pro duelists. He'd go pretty high up right here at D tier. Would I put him in C tier though? I still think that Crowler and Bonaparte would be able to deal with him. If not, they're just terrible teachers. But let's move on. Let's see. Let's just get these guys out of the way. These guys were the Dimension Commanders, and I'm easily going to give them A tier. They're above Bron, that's for sure, because Bron was technically one of the smaller commanders. These guys were much stronger, so I'm going to put them up there. I should have just put the Supreme King's commanders right underneath at A together in one group, because honestly they're all around the same level. What's the point of me actually doing anything else? So yeah, just gonna move them right here. Actually, I forgot about Chaos Sorcerer. Chaos Sorcerer would also be around this level as well. They were very strong in their own dimension, of course, and they would easily beat any Duel Academy student. They would easily beat any of these guys below. But they still had to lose. They still ended up losing to characters like Zane as the Phoenix. So yeah, they did actually take on really top tier duelists, but I think this is a good standing for them. Moving on here, we have Blair. Blair is, I think she's better than the typical duelist, Duel Academy student, but she's a D tier. I mean, she didn't really do too much else, so she deserves a D. Next we have, I guess, Dark Magician Girl. I'm sorry, but you're going in D tier. I mean, you didn't really do too much. If anything, maybe even E tier. I'm sorry, I really want to put her higher, but this is as far as you go. Oh, I forgot about these guys. Chaz's lackeys, F tier. I mean, they were pretty much victims throughout the entire thing. So yeah, there's nothing else to say about them. Who else do we have? We have Fonda Fontaine. So she was like the school nurse, and what's amazing about her is that she was playing a Nurse Refucule deck. Pretty impressive, but she didn't really show too much else for it. So C tier, I think that's a pretty honest place to put her, you know. D tier, no, D tier. Because I keep thinking about this guy. Maybe I should give this guy C tier, you know. I think that's a little bit better. Something like this looks better. Who else do we have here? We have Sorano. Sorano was playing a Horus the Black Flame Dragon deck. Instantly, I'm going to put him in C tier as well. He was playing a Horus deck, definitely gave Jaden a hard time. And we're talking about Season 4 Jaden as well. And Season 4 Jaden's just like really strong, so I'm going to give him a C here. Alright, next we have Kyberman. Kyberman was able to beat Jaden, and yes, he only appeared once, but he is still technically an embodiment of Kyber in some sort of way, so oh man, SS tier. I'm gonna give him SS tier. I think he would lose to Season 4 Jaden with Yubel and all, but overall Kyberman still defeated Jaden, and I think that's something that's worth the show for, so SS tier. And thing is this, I think if we were to put him in S tier, that'd be okay, but if we'll put him in A tier, that would be a huge disrespect. He's technically the embodiment of Kyber. Nah, we can't put him any lower than S tier. Next we have the D. So the D was actually pretty strong. This guy took on pretty much a mad scientist, a mad criminal, and he beat him. So yeah, this guy's pretty strong. Of course, I'm considering the fact that this guy's been possessed as well, and he's using Destiny Hero Plasma, but he ended up losing to Asta. I still think he's pretty scary, so I put him in this region here, just below Jinzo and maybe above Jinzo, but I'd put him, no, maybe even higher, because I'm thinking about Pegasus now, and I think he would be right about here. He might be stronger though. I mean, keep in mind, he's not weak, you know. I'm gonna put him pretty high up. I think that's a good place. Moving on, we have here Truman. Truman was one of the messengers for Night Shroud. Though he kept losing, he did actually manage to beat almost the entire world. He even beat Hasselberry. He even beat Axel Brody as well, which I think that's pretty strong, so I'm actually going to put him in A tier. Should I put him in S tier? We'll come back to that. We'll put him in A tier for now. But let's go for this guy, Makoto. Makoto, this guy in Season 4, if you guys didn't watch Season 4, watch it. It's probably one of the best seasons in the entire Yu-Gi-Oh franchise, but Makoto was playing a Jinzo deck as well, and I mean, it's hard to argue, they never finished their duel, but I feel like he might have almost won that game against Zane. Though we're talking about a weaker Zane with bad health. A tier looks good. Don't forget about this guy, the Mad Scientist. He did lose to the D, but overall I'd say that, I mean, he was regarded as a genius criminal. That's the thing. But yeah, honestly, it's like, maybe I'm being a bit too nice to Pegasus here. Sorry, Pegasus, but you're going a bit lower. Just around here, maybe. Yeah, that's about right. Yep, so this guy just below the D. There you go. Alright, moving on. We have now the top tier characters, I guess. We have Camilla. Camilla is also powerful as well in her own right. So C tier maybe? Yeah, I think this is about right. Stronger than Jinzo. Jinzo maybe not that strong. I think this looks good. Okay, now we're genuinely going with the stronger duelists. So let's talk about Hasselberry. Hasselberry, B tier. I'm sorry, but although you are main character as well, you're one of the main characters, you just ended up losing quite a lot. Too much to say. You're weaker than Cyrus as well. Not to say that Cyrus was weak. Cyrus did eventually surpass Zane, but Hasselberry lost to a raw yellow version of Cyrus, so I think I'll keep him there. And he also ended up losing to, wait a second, where's Truman? Yeah, he lost to Truman, so I think B tier is nice. Bastion, unfortunately I'm also going to give him a B tier. He never really took off. That set him apart, so sorry, keeping you right here. And if anything, I still might consider him weaker than Tanya, so bottom B tier. Next we have Professor Banner. I'm actually talking about him when he was actually Amneal, and he was quite decent. I mean, he was the final Shadow Rider, so yeah, I'm gonna put him, and he was considered the strongest as well. He beat every single person. He beat Chaz, he beat Alexis. Yeah, he was just beating everyone, and the only person he ended up really losing to was Jaden. So pretty impressive here. I don't know, I mean, with him being Amneal, he might even be stronger than these two guys here. A tier, definitely A tier. He was the strongest Shadow Rider, so I think that's really cool. Next we have Chancellor Shepard. I mean, this guy was decent, but actually, you know what, I'm putting him stronger than Crowler, but he's not going any higher than that. Maybe stronger than, I don't know, like it could go either way. It's interchangeable between Pegasus and Shepard, but I'd say they're around the same level. Like Shepard, if he actually tried, he would be quite strong. And you know, he's not the master of the cyber style dojo for no reason. Giving him a C might even be quite dishonest. I might even give it a B because we have Bastion here as well. It looks good there as well. Hassleberry, sorry, you're going right here. And I think Shepard's actually stronger than Bastion and Hassleberry. So I think that's pretty good. Yeah, something like that. Moving on here, we have Jim Crocodile. Let's talk about these guys. Jim Crocodile, A tier. Really cool. Really awesome. He actually almost saved Jaden as well. What I will say though is this: would he beat these guys? For sure he would. So if anything, I might put him in S tier, but I'm also putting Marcel here as well. So compared to Marcel and Ojin, he wouldn't really fare well against them. But who else do we have here? We have Adrian Gecko. Adrian was playing an Exodia deck and he did beat Asta, so I'll put him in A tier as well. He's top tier duelist for sure. We have Axel. Axel is also pretty strong as well, also A tier duelist. He did lose to Truman, so I might put Truman just here. And I put Axel right here. Axel also got a draw against the Supreme King, so honestly I'm gonna bump these guys up. There we go. That looks pretty good. Yeah, these guys were Jim and Axel were MVPs in the 3rd season. They pretty much saved Jaden from the Supreme King, so really awesome characters. Alright, next let's talk about Jesse. Jesse, he is strong already. If anything, I'm putting him in SS tier because he was Jaden's greatest rival. If you were to put him in control with Yubel, he might even be in triple. I don't know, maybe. But I think because he was possessed by Yubel, he was able to actually beat Adrian, which was pretty amazing. And he's far stronger than Marcel. So yeah, with the Crystal Beast deck, he was one of the top duelists for sure. So double S tier. We have Asta Phoenix. Asta Phoenix, I think he's meant to be Jaden's rival in season 2, but he just never took off as well as the others. So would A tier be too low for him? I don't know, but he did beat like these guys. He beat all of these guys, so he definitely deserves A tier or higher. But for now, I'm going to keep it at that. Let's go with Cyrus. So Cyrus was... Look, the guy surpassed Zane, which means by that logic, he would beat these guys as well. And you know, I would actually like to think that he was one of the main characters. He's meant to be like the Joey Wheeler equivalent, maybe, to the series. So I think being part of that main trio of the whole squad, I think giving him A tier would be quite nice. Alright, next we have Zane. Zane is, he was surpassed by Cyrus, so unfortunately he might go, I don't know. But then again, here's an interesting argument. Cyrus didn't truly surpass Zane. Although Zane said that Cyrus surpassed him, if we look at Zane at true power with the Cyberdarks, he was on another level. I can't put Zane any lower. I think Zane deserves to be like right up here. Definitely right up here. I think he would lose to Adrian's Exodia deck, but he also took on Jesse and was pretty close to winning. I don't know, I'll put him right there like this. And I'm going to put these guys like that. Next we have Atticus. Atticus, this guy was Night Shroud. He was strong enough to be possessed by Night Shroud, I guess. He was considered one of the 3 geniuses along Fujiwara and Zane. So if that's the case, he's going in A tier. I'd probably say he's a bit weaker than Cyrus, but I don't know, I think that's disrespectful. He's in the bottom A tier, but he deserves A tier. I wouldn't give him any lower. I think it's disrespectful if I did that. We have Alexis. Around the same place. I think Alexis might have been a little bit better than Atticus, but they're around the same level. Both A tier. Fujiwara, look, he was possessed by a Night Shroud, and because that's the only way we kind of saw him, we kind of have to put him up there. But keep in mind, even without Night Shroud, he was considered a genius, even greater than both Zane and Atticus. So I think A tier might even be quite nice there. And being possessed by Night Shroud, I'd probably put him in SS tier as well. He was like the second final duelist in the entire duel, I guess, the second final villain, right before Night Shroud came out, and yeah, I think that's a really good place. Next we have Chaz. Chaz was also one of those main characters as well, though he never really took off. I think A tier at best. Alright, so now for the big characters here. So we have over here Kagemaru. This guy had the Sacred Beasts, and honestly, with the Sacred Beast, this guy was actually genuinely strong. A lot of people underestimate Season 1 quite a bit, but Kagemaru as the first villain is definitely a really strong guy. With 3 of the Sacred Beasts, obviously he didn't utilize it as well as yugioh, but yeah, I think he was just way too strong, like in Season 1 particularly as well, and it kind of made Jaden look quite strong as well, being able to defeat him. But I think, yeah, A tier is good enough for him, for sure. Next we have over here, okay, so we have Jaden from Season 4, and we have the Supreme King and yugioh as well. Now technically we could put all 3 together, but it's a bit different. So yugioh, on her own, she is incredibly strong, so definitely a double S tier. I wanted to put her in SSS tier as well, but the problem was, compared to the Light of Destruction, compared to Night Shroud, I just think that yugioh was a little bit too short of it. So for that being said, SS is pretty nice. Supreme King, same case. I'm gonna give the Supreme King an SS tier as well. He was strong, but that's as far as it gets, you know. I don't know, the Supreme King was crazy strong actually. I'll put him in right here because he did get a draw against Axel, but maybe that was him being a bit more careless, I don't know. Night Shroud, look, Night Shroud is SSS tier. I mean, the Light of Destruction and Night Shroud, it's hard to say who's stronger, but they're both like really crazy strong, you know. But since Sartorius was still human, and he was being controlled by the Light of Destruction, and it wasn't the pure Light of Destruction, I'd say he's weaker than the pure version of Night Shroud or Darkness. And then finally the 2 final duelists. So firstly we're going to put Yugi because he was the main character of the first series, and then of course our main hero Jaden deserves SSS tier because, look, I'm gonna say this right now, I think Jaden's stronger than Yugi. Yu-Gi-Oh! GX was meant to be a series about the next king of games, implying that by the end of the series I think Jaden surpassed Yugi, and you know, it's obvious he's stronger than Sartorius, it's obvious he's stronger than Night Shroud or Darkness, but for him to be stronger than Yugi, I strongly believe that, and I think this is a really good list that I've made. Really few things I'll change. For example, D, E, and F, I mean, is it really relevant? C and B could be, some of them could be interchangeable, but I'm pretty happy with SSS, I'm pretty happy with SS, I'm pretty happy with S tier, and A tier is also looking pretty good as well. But yeah, what do you guys think about this overall list here? I mean, do you guys like it? What would you change? And yeah, I don't know, tell me what you guys think in the comments down below. But that's pretty much it for this video, so hopefully it's not too long. If you guys enjoyed this video, give it a like, and also share it with anyone who might also want to play around with this as well. But that being said, definitely subscribe if you want to see more videos like this. I'll be doing one for Yu-Gi-Oh 5Ds as well. It's going to be way shorter, don't worry about that. There is way less Yu-Gi-Oh 5Ds characters than there is GX duelists, so yeah, for sure the ranking of Yu-Gi-Oh 5D's duelists will be way shorter. But that being said, I hope you guys have a great day. I'll see you next time.